But none of us here can still explain what Manchester United try to do in terms of how they play. He's been here now, what, nearly 18 months. We've seen Unai Emery come in at Aston Villa. We've seen Postecoglou come in now at Tottenham in a very short space of time. Now, that doesn't mean you win every week, but when you go to the games, you know what you're going to see. We still don't know what you're going to see with Manchester United. You tell me how they play with the ball.
No. Massive point there from Jamie Carragher. Look, hit like buttons. Make sure you're subscribing to the Football Terrace. Turn on bell notifications as well. You know, YouTube doesn't always tell you when content comes out, and I don't want any of you on the terrace to miss anything we push out. But to sack Ten Hag or to keep Ten Hag, to trust the process or to move on to somebody else, that is a debate that is engulfed right now within the Man United community, across the mainstream media, and the football fraternity at large. And everybody's going to have a different opinion. Sack him, keep him. We've done this before. I don't trust my owners. You can't blame the Glazers. Yes, you can. Where's the style of football? There's lots going on here, and you have to compartmentalize some of it as well as look at the overall picture. And I want to focus on what Jamie Carragher has first said here. There is no style of football at Man United. And I agree. The way we play football is abysmal. And a lot of Man United fans are angry. A lot of Man United fans are frustrated. And we're frustrated because when we watched Ten Hag's Ajax play football, it was liquid. It was silky. And we were waiting for that to come to Man United. We have been demanding for a decade that Manchester United and our style of play move into the 21st century. It's 2023, and we are not playing like our contemporaries. And when I say contemporaries, I'm talking about clubs of our size and of similar historical stature. We're not. Ten Hag seems the person that could do that. And my biggest fear, and why I've lost faith in the manager. Now, I'll get on to whether or not I think he should be sacked and the ramifications for that later. So stay with me. Don't just react and type. Wait and listen. What I've seen Ten Hag say after this game, for me, feels like the final nail in the coffin of any hope that I've got that our football will improve. He was asked a question yesterday. When will you be able to play the same football with Manchester United that you saw with Ajax? His response was never. We will never play that football because those were different players. This is also not why I came here. We are playing different football than I showed at Ajax because I have to, because I can't play the same way. The players decide how you play. Ajax is a very typical and characteristic style of play, and Man United, I will always show different football. I did so last year as well. We played much more football here because I have the players to do that here. For me, this is crazy on so many levels. It's infuriating, it's upsetting, and it's damning. Because when he says, this is not why I came here, this tells me, firstly, actually to get to him, the players shouldn't dictate how you play. You should as the manager. Your style of play that you are familiar with. And look, we saw how well that Ajax team played. Look at Ajax are now without him, right? We know how good he is at that. If you're coming here and the owners are telling you, but we don't want your style of football, why on God's green earth have you agreed to come? It makes zero sense. You would not employ Pep Guardiola to play Sam Allardyce style football. Equally, you wouldn't go and get David Moyes and say, I want to play the Dutch style total football. You hire the coach and manager to play the style of football you want. So already, Ten Hag agreeing to this is a madness. Letting the players dictate is crazy. What does this then tell you about his recruitment? He signed a lot of players he managed before and a lot of players he wanted before. To not play his style of football, this is nonsensical on every single level. This cannot be defended in any way, shape, or form. But it also makes you look at the football club and should make you understand that we have no idea what we are doing. We all know as fans watching, we need to change how we play. We need to find a manager with a style of football that works in this era and go, this is how the club is going to play for the next 10 to 20 years. And you bring him in and you recruit for him and his style. But then what you do is you keep that style. You keep that type of recruitment beyond that manager. You create a club style of football that works, that's consistent, that matches up with your academies. When you loan players out, the style of football they go away on loan to play is similar to how you play. This is how the best clubs in the world are run. The fact that our owners, the fact that our sports people, the fact that our manager and players are all on different pages is why we are where we are. So that part of what Carragher said is spot on.
They've currently got over their heads a guy all over the news going to own 25% that's going to basically come out and whine.
Gary,
Why will you not listen? Why do I have to listen to you but you won't listen to me?
Come on.
Right. So basically, you imagine you're in a business, you're in a football club, and the news is that there's a guy going to come in and basically wipe out the whole football department. Have you imagine what's going on inside that football department at this moment in time, in and around Erik ten Hag? It is toxic and embedded negativity. They all think they're all going to lose their jobs. I know you can say carry on with it, you know, they're professional, but you imagine what's happening. Jim Ratcliffe's going to come in with Dave Brailsford, they're going to sweep out the football department, they're all going to get moved away. That's what's happening. And I honestly believe this toxicity that exists at this club, and has done for years, by the way, it just eats alive every manager that comes and every player that comes.
Gary Neville's right about that, but this is where it becomes multi-layered. Everything I've said about Ten Hag's style of football, the substitutions as of late, the problems that he is creating by not implementing his style is on him. 100%. He should be blamed for that. His decision-making. I've lost faith in this manager where he's playing Bruno, where he's playing Lindelof, not dropping Rashford. The way he's handled the Sancho situation, I blame the manager. However, it's deeper than him. Because sacking Ten Hag could be the right thing. Selling Rashford and Bruno could be the right thing. Reinstating Sancho could be the right thing. Begging Ronaldo to come back could be the right thing. Selling Onana and bringing back David De Gea could be the right thing. You can undo everything, reinstate people, whatever you want to do. But we know sacking managers and just selling players has not fixed us once in 10 years because of the toxicity that exists at Manchester United. And the two things cannot be ignored. We cannot keep aiming for low-hanging fruit. We must dig deeper. Now, this is where Jamie Carragher, want to watch this video. I want you to listen very, very carefully. And then we're going to look at what the mainstream media do to gaslight Man United fans, to make us only focus on the getting rid of a manager. Now, let me reiterate again for the silly people at the back. I'm not saying the managers and players shouldn't be criticised. I'm not even stating we shouldn't sack the manager. But you have to still dig deeper. That isn't going to fix the club in its entirety. Listen.
Everything goes back to the ownership. Of course, it's not right. The supporters are not happy. But what you're talking about is a style of football. What he's doing on the training pitch, Monday to Friday, every day, has got nothing to do with Jim Ratcliffe coming in. What does he want those players to do? Right. When they're building up from the back, and we see every top team in the league do it, what are Manchester United trying to do with the ball? They're playing underdog football, and they have done since he come in. Gary, let me finish. You just spoke before. They play counter-attack, and they play a lot of long balls. Sometimes...
And he's bang on. But this is where I would expect Jamie Carragher to not expose himself and do his research. The manager has told you why. We're all waiting to see his Ajax style of football. But between him and the Glazers, they're not going to do it. So there's no point. This is why I'm at a stage where I don't mind if the manager gets sacked. I don't think we're going to improve. And let me say that again for the silly people in the back. I don't think we're going to improve massively by sacking him. I don't think if we get rid of Bruno and Rashford, we're going to improve massively. Because the club has no plan. It isn't as easy as just sacking the manager. So Jamie Carragher spent a good 5 to 10 minutes saying that you can't blame the owners, you can't blame the owners, you can't blame the owners. It's about the style of play. Hasn't done his research into the style of play that isn't coming. And then goes on to say this. Take a little listen.
When we talk about the top at Manchester United, I think there's sometimes this feeling around Manchester United that the manager doesn't get what he wants. Gary's right. I think the manager, you get too much power. What's going to happen when Erik ten Hag moves on? You've still got, you know, all that sort of group of players. They're sort of embedded with him. And when I say I'm more critical of the managers, I go back to last summer. And I know Casemiro did well at times last season, but I go back to that. Signing him and Eriksen was not things that a top football club in their position should be doing.
So, starts off by saying it's the manager, it's the manager, it's the manager. We can't blame the owners, it's the manager. But then goes on to say that the managers are given too much power and they're making crazy signings, which is all signed off, which is all allowed to happen by the Glazers. And this is why true Manchester United fans have stopped going for low-hanging fruit. We know that the manager can be criticised. But every time I hear a professional pundit, an ex-footballer, a journalist, a rival talk about Manchester United, if you just let them keep talking, they always end up blaming the Glazers. They don't think they're blaming the Glazers. They don't use the name Glazers, but they blame the Glazers. I actually agree with Carragher. He's right, but it undoes his first point. We now know that they don't want Ten Hag's style of play. That's why he's not doing it. Ten Hag should never agree to come. It's his own words. We give managers too much power. We give them too much control because we don't have any football people making good footballing decisions. We now have a situation when new part owners might come in and they want to clear everything out. That has created additional toxicity, which has led to even more of a calamity because the ownership situation should have been resolved before last season ended, but it wasn't. But we can't blame the Glazers for that. Otherwise, we're letting the manager off the hook. This is so multi-layered. But when you ask the five whys, as Carragher has just exposed himself to, it always ends up back at the feet of the Glazers. And like he stated, as soon as this manager leaves and a new guy comes in, he's now got to undo this whole mess because we won't go for somebody who wants the same players as Ten Hag. That new manager won't be able to implement his style of play anyway. In 18 months' time, under the Glazers, if there's no dramatic change in how we're run as a football club, we're back here in exactly the same position again. Now, what's very, very interesting is I saw this from a journalist. And this is what I mean. Do not, Man United fans, be gaslit into thinking sacking the manager or selling a player or two fixes us. We may need to sack him, but don't delude yourself into thinking that's the new dawn is here. This comes from Phil McNulty, who's a massive BBC journalist, who says Anthony cost Man United 80 million, and no one can blame the Glazers for that. This one is on Ten Hag, and Man United overpaid monstrously. So he said you can't blame the Glazers for spending 80 million pounds on Anthony. But then in the final three words says United overpaid monstrously. It's the Glazers, one, who signed off on that. It's the Glazers, two, who employed the football decision makers on the board, which also includes Joel Glazer, to look at the due diligence reports, look at the scouting reports on this player, and agree to it. They also, by the way, could have signed him for 30 to 40 million pounds less a few weeks earlier and said no to signing off on the money, and then got desperate late in the window and had to pay much, much more. That's on them. This is why I say to Man United fans, do not be gaslit. I have lost my faith in this manager. I am fuming with Bruno, fuming with Rashford. I understand people's criticisms of the signing of Casemiro because of his age. But if anybody is deluded enough to think just removing those situations fixes Manchester United, you are stone cold wrong. And it's why I said at the top of this video, this isn't as simple as sacking a manager, even though he may need to be sacked. Because I already think this manager's burnt. I don't think this is recoverable because of how toxic we are. Why do I think this? History. Pep Guardiola was also asked a question. Pep Guardiola on the recent, on the secret of Manchester City. He says, we're in the same direction. Me, the CEO, the sporting directors, the chairman. This is why I think the club is so stable. And this is why I implore football fans to listen to what the greats say. I know that me and Lee Gunner get into this a lot, where he's like, you can't compare a Ten Hag to a Pep. You can't compare an Arteta to a Pep. It's not the comparison. I would much rather in life my children follow the path and the techniques of the greats than somebody that's unsuccessful. You should also listen to what they speak about. And it's nearly always about mentality and culture and structure and stability, far more than they speak about ability and skill set. And although those things are very important as well. And listen to what he says there. Everybody at the club is pulling in the same direction. If you just listen to what Jamie Carragher and Neville have spoken about, you look at the new 25% ownership input from Sir Jim Ratcliffe. You listen to the very words that come out of the mouth of Ten Hag in terms of how he is going to play football and why he's not going to implement his own personal style at this football club. You look at the hiring and sacking of 5 completely different managers from one another. The scattergun approach to our recruitment that starts every new manager off on the back foot. And because nobody is pulling in the same direction, they never complete their rebuild. These are the reasons why Man United are never getting back to the top. on every single manager sacking since David Moyes, so LVG and beyond, I've said the same thing. The managers probably deserve to lose their job. There are individual players that I don't want to see at the club anymore. They don't work hard enough. And there's multiple reasons for that. It's cultural. They're probably frustrated at the lack of style of football when they see their friends and international teammates or other clubs playing beautiful football and they're playing something from the dark ages. But I understand people want some of them gone. I understand people want managers sacked. But if we go through from LVG until now, every single time, and this isn't about I told you so, because it's not about wanting to be right here. It's about imploring Man United fans to not be gaslit and to focus on the real, true problems at this club. Sacking Ten Hag may need to happen. And in fact, I think it does need to happen if his own words are true. We're not going to see his Ajax style of football, his brand of football. For me, there's no point in Ten Hag. Genuinely, there is no point in Ten Hag. Zero. We are putting, we do it with players. We put too many square pegs into round holes. We're now doing it with managers. I'm not averse to any one of our players being sold if the new person coming in can improve us. But Man United fans, please remember this. Until there is systemic, long-term change internally with genuine, top-quality football minds making football decisions, until the owners, the board, which is sometimes one of the same, a little bit of crossover, the recruitment team, the manager and his coaching staff and the players, until they are all one, pulling in the same direction, with the same philosophy, with the same views. There's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be vetoing. There's always going to be some disagreements. But as a general rule, you're all heading in the same direction. Until that is in place at this club, and it's been missing now for a decade, yes, sacking the manager could be the right thing to do, but don't delude yourself. Don't labor under the illusion that it's going to improve Manchester United. Not in the medium to long term. Why do I believe I'm right on this? Because we've got 10 years of history and experience that proves it. And when we were sacking Ollie, I sat on streams and on spaces, and I was called an Ollie simp and an Ollie sympathizer. And I say the same thing now as I said then. Ollie deserved to be sacked, but I don't think sacking him is going to improve Manchester United. And look where we are, 2 years later. Exactly where I said we would be. It pains me that we're here. It infuriates me that we are here. But until we as a fan club, as a fan base, boycott the club, pull all our money and force the Glazers out, in my personal opinion, nothing is going to change. So it's on you, Manchester United fans, to make this change. The Glazers won't do it. No manager's going to be able to do it. Individual players can't do it. It's down to the fans. Boycott or continue to watch this club erode into absolutely nothing.